Hello, I'm Catriona Stewart. I'm academic advisor to this Scottish Autism's Right Click programme for women and girls on the autism spectrum. We've identified a number of key areas of importance that we have created some resources around, including diagnosis, education, employment, health and well-being, parenting, middle age and getting older. But now I'd like to talk about some of the research findings that we've put together about employment. So, workplace issues. So about half of our questionnaire respondents said that they had had difficulties in retaining a job or had had to leave their work. And there are a number of reasons for this. Not being able to conform to the group culture, difficulties with workplace politics, being too honest, too direct perhaps, not sharing interests, not liking to share in gossip. In terms of work, not being able to infer the chain of command, and perhaps being too by the book. It's a bit inflexible, perhaps. So some of these things can lead to problems such as bullying in the workplace and harassment, or feeling harassed, certainly. Women can indeed be very bitchy, and so can men. Women that don't conform to cultural expectations and norms may come under a lot of fire, or they may find themselves very excluded. Which can take its toll, and it can make it extremely hard for otherwise very capable women to stay in employment. There are issues to do with interviews and training and how to get jobs. Obviously, autistic women who have an experience in the past, when they're asked a question, will be able to relate that. Sometimes it can be harder, though, to then transfer that experience into the context of the question that's being asked. So there are issues to do with interview techniques, but a lot of women, autistic women, do manage to get employment. It's actually being able to stay in the job that can become more of a challenge. One of the issues involved is that issues to do with perfectionism. So women working extremely hard to produce good results, like most autistic people, autistic females are very often prone to being perfectionists, and they will give everything they've got to achieve their work to a very high standard. But the problem that can kick in then is if they're given an extra task or they're given something new to do, they will work extremely hard to do a really, really good job of whatever it is they've been asked. But then they're expected to reproduce those same high standards over and over again, or they may be given what has been an extra add-on to the job. They're giving that permanently as one of their responsibilities. And the other staff involved or their employers are not actually aware of the amount of effort that's involved to achieve those high standards. So these women are maybe working over lunch times, they may be taking work home with them, they may be putting themselves under an awful lot of pressure without people really realising that that's what's happening. And that, of course, can also make them stand out from their colleagues as well, and that can lead to jealousies and resentments, or even just they're thought odd because they need to stay at their desk at lunchtime instead of going off for lunch with their colleagues. So really, what it comes down to is there can be a difficulty in asserting their needs and asserting their boundaries at work. And these things lead to stress and exhaustion, and the most commonly cited reason for women leaving their places of work or having to leave their jobs is actually going off with long-term anxiety and stress, and it's really caused by exhaustion. It goes back to that analogy of the swan about appearing to glide across the surface of life, paddling like mad underneath, and occasionally, of course, turning upside down or just crashing, really. Lack of routine is cited as an issue as well. Unexpected ongoing changes at work can be really challenging. Environmental factors are an issue, sensory overload. It includes things like colleagues wearing very strong perfumes, air fresheners in the place of work, stuffy, unventilated rooms, excess lighting, strip lighting, lots of noise, all these things. So here's a quote about one of the issues that someone found at work. Lack of reasonable adjustments when my anxiety levels are high, changes to routine, not being given notice of changes, even just having to be around people on some days and not enough time out. Have a stressful job, frequently having to deal with unplanned changes again, having to multitask, poor communication, imprecise instruction from seniors, uncertainty, all leading to a breakdown, long-term sick leave and subsequent dismissal on the grounds of capability, even though they're quite capable. So a diagnosis of autism did not happen until the end of my sick leave. I was in the same job, this is someone else. I was in the same job for 18 years. Then during my third pregnancy, I began to find the job more stressful. My priorities were changing and I had the opportunity to be at home with my baby. On returning to the workforce when my child went to school, I got what I thought was my ideal job at an autism centre for adults with an autism spectrum condition, but this became impossible due to family commitments and the management structure. So I left. It's quite interesting because I'm sure a lot of women, autistic or not, have issues to do with balancing work and family life and work. I think the interesting there possibly is the management structure comment. So people feel overwhelmed, or as people read my being overwhelmed as rudeness or unwillingness and don't understand that when I say can't, I mean can't, and that I will push myself until I crash. People get impatient with me. I'm intelligent and they think I'm being obstructive if I don't respond at once. I've come out in my current workplace and there's still a huge difference between the people who will now give me space and time and those who think I'm just being difficult or overreacting. So how to make things better? Well, increased awareness, yet again, is commonly cited, people being aware of people's status, so disclosure and staff training, management support. The Equality Act of 2010 legally protects people from discrimination in the workplace and in wider society. This Equality Act replaced previous anti-discrimination laws with a single act, which was set out to make the law easier to understand and strengthen protection in some situations. It sets out the different ways in which it's lawful to treat someone. What the Act says is that a person has a disability if they have a physical or mental impairment. Now, we might object to the word impairment, but anyway, this is what's in the Act, which has a long-term and substantial adverse effect on their ability to carry out normal day-to-day activities. Physical or mental impairment includes sensory impairments, such as those affected by sight or hearing. Long-term means that the impairment has lasted or is likely to last for at least 12 months or for the rest of the affected person's life. And substantial means more than minor or trivial. So that's something that's worth having a look at. It also says that indirect discrimination may occur when a service provider applies, that also means places of work, applies an apparently neutral provision, criterion or practice which puts persons sharing a protected characteristic at a particular disadvantage. For indirect discrimination to take place, 4 requirements must be met. The service provider applies or would apply the practice equally to everyone within the relevant group. The people who share the service use as protected characteristic are put at a particular disadvantage when compared with people who do not have that characteristic. That's two of the provisions. Making things better would include patience when I could not understand what people are expressing or misread cues. Awareness, self-awareness. I understand now why I have certain difficulties and can be more objective about my responses to situations instead of just feeling stupid or frustrated all the time. Managing my own workload so I can incorporate time out. Regular supervision with a respected manager. Working in a social care organisation where people have the same values as me and where we have a person-centred team approach. And as above, people giving me time and space and realising that intelligent and emotionally intelligent as I may be, there are things I can't cope with and things I don't get. Active support and understanding from management. And then finally, working as a self-employed consultant and being in control.